Your weather now, we are halfway through April. Really?
I know.
And that means that we're also halfway through meteorological spring. Hey, I pronounced that right.
Good
Meteorological.
job.
I'm really impressed.
I know, it is impressive. And we have meteorologist Christian Bridges here with the stats of the season so far and what the rest of the spring might bring us. Hopefully
That's right.
sunshine.
Yes, and warmer temperatures.
Yes.
It does look like we have finally shifted into a better pattern, you know, with some milder temperatures, so that's nice to see. But yeah, it's definitely been a bit chilly for the month of April, at least.
Sure has.
To start off. So yeah, pretty cold start to the month of April. But overall, spring has actually been running a little bit above average because we had a very mild March. So here's a look at the difference between meteorological and astronomical spring. I always like to bring this up when we're talking about this because there is a difference, and with statistics, it's a lot easier when you go by the months. So March, April, and May, that's meteorological spring, which we've been in since March 1st. Versus the astronomical spring that most of us are familiar with. That begins on March 20th and goes until June 20th. That more has to do with the sun's position, when the sun will be shining directly over the equator, versus meteorological spring, which is, again, more statistic based, and for March, April, and May. And by June, most people would consider us to be in summer anyway. So for April so far, it's a lot of blue squares on our map. In fact, we had quite the stretch from the 7th all the way through the 13th, where we were well below average each and every day. And then look at that dramatic swing from the 13th into the 14th. 21 degrees warmer yesterday. So yeah, finally, that 62 was the warmest day of the year so far. And hopefully we can put some warmer temperatures on this forecast on our calendar here as we head later into the month. We've had 1.1 inches of snowfall in Portland so far this April. It has snowed with measurable amounts on 3 separate days. We've had flakes in the air on several other days as well. So yeah, hopefully we are putting the snow chances away. And we're at 2.2 inches. This was before the rain this morning. Average is about 4.4 inches for the month of April. So we're right around halfway there. So let's talk about what we're seeing in terms of temperature through the middle of April. This is from March 1st until today. I thought this was very interesting when I did this calculation yesterday. We are actually a little more than a degree above average for meteorological spring through yesterday. So even though April was very chilly, we're actually about 3.5 degrees below average for the month of April so far, because March was fairly mild. And of course, March was 31 days. That kind of balanced out the chilly start to April. So in the end, we're actually running slightly above average for meteorological spring through yesterday. And of course, we've got a pretty mild forecast this week. So I think we will continue to stay generally above average. So not going to end up on this coldest meteorological spring list. If spring ended today, it would be the coldest on record. But of course, we still have the whole month of May and the rest of April. So unlikely to end up on this list here. The coldest spring recorded was in 1956 with an average of 37.9. And it's funny enough, last year we had the 5th warmest meteorological spring, March, April, May. If you remember, we had a pretty nice end to April. We had a pretty nice May last year, and it ended up making spring pretty warm with an average of 46 degrees. I don't know if we'll get to this level, top 5 warmest, but it is a possibility, especially considering that above average temperatures are favored heading into May. Also unlikely we get to the wettest. It's been not soaking, but it hasn't been exactly really all that wet for March and most of April so far, so probably not in the top list here for wettest springs. But I think a lot of us will be happy to see this the next 3 months, favored to be above average. The rest of April, May, and June as well, likely to be quite warm. And in terms of precipitation, as we finish out April and head into May, does still look to be at least a little unsettled, with slightly above average precipitation being favored. So yeah, hopefully we can really turn the page now, move on to some warm weather, and start getting the leaves back on the trees before we know it.
I know.
2 more weeks is when they start to pop up. That first week of May is when usually that happens.
You know what really helped out the average was yesterday and also Friday in the 60s too.
Yes, actually it's funny you mentioned that, because from yesterday's number being thrown in there, 62 degrees, it bumped up our meteorological spring average by 0.3 degrees.
Wow.
So yeah.
One day.
Just by one day. Yeah. So, we throw some 70s in there. We get well above average.
It's amazing what one day of nice weather will do for everyone's
Your psyche too.
I know.
Mental health. Everyone was so happy yesterday.
It was wild just seeing how many people were out biking. I went by the Eastern Prom yesterday afternoon, and there were so many people with blankets that were spread out reading or, hanging out playing Frisbee. A lot of people outside enjoying the nice weather.
It's
Good.
nice to see Mainers coming out of their caves.
It is. It literally, that's what it felt like yesterday. It felt like we were coming out of our
emerging
cave.
hibernation.
Yes.
Where's my snacks?
All so pale that we go in the sun, we were like shining
Yeah,
bright.
and they're grumpy. But yesterday, I mean, it brought up the smiles.
Yep.
It brought everything. So people were positive
More
yesterday.
of that. We
Yes.
want more of that.
Yeah.
You could just
All
feel
right.
the joy in the air.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And if you've got any weather-related questions you'd like to ask the Weather Authority team, you can email us at weather@wgme.com.
And it's a joy to deliver those kinds of forecasts.
Oh, it
yes.
sure is. It sure is.